5 years had passed since the Galactic Council had banished humanity. 5 years since Earth had been cut off from the stars. 5 years of struggle, of change, and of growth. Dr. Jin-Woo Park stood at the window of his office, looking out at the sprawling research complex that had once been a small underground lab. Now it stretched across the valley, a city of science where 10,000 of Earth's brightest minds worked day and night. "Dr. Park," a voice called from the doorway. "The president has arrived." Jin-Woo turned to see his assistant, a young woman named Su-Jin. "Thank you," he said. "I'll be right down." He took one last look at the valley. 5 years ago, this place had been empty. Now it was the heart of Earth's future. He smiled and headed for the elevator. President Hyun Park was waiting in the main conference room. Though 5 years had added gray to her hair, she still stood tall and strong. Next to her was Jun Kim, no longer an ambassador, but now the director of Earth's Defense Initiative. "Madam President," Jin-Woo said with a small bow. "Director Kim, welcome to New Dawn." "Dr. Park," the president said, shaking his hand firmly. "Your monthly reports are impressive, but I wanted to see the progress with my own eyes." Jin-Woo nodded. "Of course. We have much to show you." He led them through the complex, showing them labs where scientists worked on technologies that the Council had forbidden for thousands of years. In one room, biologists were creating new forms of life. In another, physicists were bending light in ways that should have been impossible. "The Council kept so much from us," Jin-Woo explained as they walked. "They claimed it was for safety, but now we can see it was about control. They wanted to keep younger races dependent on them. And now?" President Park asked. "Now we're free to find our own path," Jin-Woo said. "The loss of alien technology hurt us at first, yes, but it forced us to innovate, to think in new ways." They entered a large circular chamber. In the center was a device much larger than the prototype quantum drive they had built 5 years ago. This one was the size of a small house with glowing parts that moved in complex patterns. "Is this what I think it is?" Jun asked. Jin-Woo nodded. "An improved quantum dimensional drive, 10 times more powerful than our first design. But that's not why I brought you here." He turned to a young man who stood nearby, checking data on a tablet. "Hansu, would you explain your discovery to our guests?" Hansu looked up. He was barely 30, with bright eyes that showed his excitement. "Madam President," he said with a quick bow. "Director Kim, it's an honor." "Hansu is our most brilliant physicist," Jin-Woo said proudly. 6 months ago, he made a breakthrough that changes everything." Hansu placed his tablet on a stand and brought up a holographic display. "The quantum drive creates shortcuts through space," he explained. "But I found something more, a way to manipulate subspace itself." The hologram showed a model of space folding and twisting in ways that seemed impossible. "What does this mean in simple terms?" President Park asked. "It means we don't need the Council's portal network anymore," Hansu said. "We can travel faster than light on our own. Not just through short jumps, but across the entire galaxy if we want to." Jun Kim's eyes widened. The Council's greatest advantage was their control of the portal network. "If we can travel without it?" "Exactly," Jin-Woo said. "The Council didn't banish us. They freed us." President Park studied the hologram carefully. "How soon can this technology be ready for actual use?" "We've already tested small-scale prototypes," Hansu said. "With proper funding and resources, we could have a ship-ready version within 2 years." The president nodded slowly. "You'll have whatever you need." They moved on to other labs, seeing more breakthroughs. New materials stronger than anything the Council had. Energy sources that could power cities for years. Weapons that could defend Earth if the need arose. Later, as they sat in Jin-Woo's office, the president asked the question that had been on her mind all day. "The Council banished us because they feared what we might become. Looking at all this, I have to wonder, were they right to be afraid?" Jin-Woo considered his answer carefully. "They weren't afraid of our technology, Madam President. They were afraid of our potential, of what we might achieve if left to grow on our own." "And what is that potential?" she asked. "I don't know," Jin-Woo admitted, "but I believe it's greater than anything the Council ever imagined." Across the complex in his private lab, Hansu worked late into the night. The equations on his screen were complex, but to him they were as clear as a children's book. He was seeing patterns no human had ever seen before, understanding the universe in ways that the Council had forbidden. A soft knock at his door interrupted his work. He looked up to see Min-Ho Lee, the head engineer for the quantum drive project. "Still working?" Minho asked with a smile. It's past midnight, Hansu stretched. I lost track of time. Minho came in and looked at the screen. His eyes widened as he saw what Hansu was working on. This isn't just about faster-than-light travel, is it? No, Hansu admitted. It's much more than that. The quantum fields we're manipulating, they connect to everything. Energy, matter, maybe even time itself. The Council would call this heresy, Minho said quietly. The Council isn't here, Hansu replied, and we don't answer to them anymore. The next morning, Jinwoo called a meeting of all department heads. 50 of Earth's greatest scientific minds gathered in the conference center. The president has given us full support, he announced. All the resources we need. Now we need to coordinate our efforts. Everything we do here must work together toward one goal: human independence among the stars. For the next year, work at New Dawn accelerated. The complex grew even larger. New discoveries were made every week. The Quantum Drive project moved forward faster than anyone had expected, thanks to Han Su's brilliant work and Min-Ho Lee's practical engineering skills. The rest of Earth was changing too. The economic crisis that had followed the banishment had passed. New industries had sprung up to replace those that had depended on alien trade. Earth had adapted, as humans always did. Jun Kim's defense initiative had built a fleet of ships using the new technologies developed at New Dawn. They weren't as advanced as the Council's ships had been, but they were Earth's own, built by human hands, designed by human minds. 18 months after the president's visit to New Dawn, Jinwoo Park received an urgent message. Hansu and Minho wanted to see him immediately in Test Chamber 7. When he arrived, he found them standing next to a small, sleek device that hummed quietly on a platform. Is that what I think it is? Jinwoo asked. Hansu nodded, his face showing both excitement and exhaustion. It's done. 6 months ahead of schedule. The first working subspace manipulator, Minho added, small enough to fit in a ship's engine room, powerful enough to take that ship anywhere in the galaxy. Jinwoo stared at the device in wonder. Have you tested it? Just small objects so far, Hansu said, but it works perfectly. We sent a probe to the edge of the solar system and back in less than a second. Jinwoo felt a chill run down his spine. This was it. The moment everything changed. Does Director Kim know yet? Minho shook his head. We wanted you to be the first, Jinwoo thought for a moment. Call the director. And the president. But first, he pulled out his personal phone and made a call. Sujin, could you come to Test Chamber 7? And bring that bottle of Korean soju I've been saving. This calls for a celebration. When Sujin arrived with the bottle, they each took a small glass. Jinwoo raised his in a toast. To humanity's first steps toward our own throne among the stars, he said. They drank, and for a moment they were just 4 people celebrating a success. But each of them knew that this moment would change the course of human history forever. The news spread quickly through the complex, then to the government, and finally to the world. Humanity had achieved faster-than-light travel on its own terms, without the Council's permission or help. At the United Nations headquarters in New Geneva, leaders from around the world gathered to hear the presentation from Hansu and Minho. They explained the technology in simple terms that non-scientists could understand. This is not just about travel, Hansu concluded. This is about freedom. For the first time, we can go where we want when we want without depending on anyone else. And where will we go first? Asked the representative from Brazil. Jun Kim stepped forward. That's the next phase of our plan. We're building ships equipped with this new drive. The first will be ready within 6 months. Its mission will be to explore beyond the boundaries the Council set for us, to go where they told us we could not go. And what if we encounter Council ships? Someone asked. What if they try to stop us? Jun smiled grimly. They would have to catch us first. And with this technology, they can't. 6 months later, at the new spaceport built in what had once been the Sahara Desert, crowds gathered to watch the launch of the HSS Defiance. It was the first ship equipped with Hansu's subspace drive, and it carried a crew of 50, scientists, explorers, and soldiers. Captain Ji-Un Kang stood on the bridge looking out at the stars. 20 years earlier, she had been a young pilot flying small ships between Earth and Mars. Now she commanded the most advanced ship humanity had ever built. Engine room reports all systems ready. Captain, her first officer reported. 20 years had passed since the day the Galactic Council had banished humanity. Earth had changed in ways that would have been hard to imagine on that dark day. The solar system was now filled with human activity. Mars had become a thriving colony with domed cities where millions lived. The moons of Jupiter and Saturn housed research stations and mining operations. Even distant Pluto had a small outpost. But for Captain Ji-un Kang, the solar system had become too small. Ji-un stood on the bridge of the HSS Defiance, now 20 years old but still the pride of Earth's fleet. The ship had been upgraded many times, each upgrade making it faster and more powerful. Today it would lead a fleet of 10 ships on humanity's most ambitious mission yet. Status report, Ji-un ordered, her voice calm despite the excitement she felt inside. Her first officer, Dae-jung-yu, responded quickly. All ships report ready, Captain. Colony modules are secure. The 1,000 colonists are in sleep chambers for the jump. Ji-un nodded. This mission would take humans farther than they had ever gone before. Not just to nearby stars, but to a planet that the Council had specifically forbidden humans to visit. The planet was called Terra Nova. It was Earth-like, with oceans and land and an atmosphere humans could breathe. The Council had claimed it was a sacred place not to be settled by any race. But Earth's long-range scans had shown it was simply a beautiful, empty world, perfect for a new human colony. Open a channel to all ships, Ji-un said. Dae-jung tapped a few buttons. Channel open, Captain. Ji-un took a deep breath. This is Captain Kang to all ships. Today we take the next step in humanity's journey. The Council tried to cage us within our own solar system. Today we prove once again that humans cannot be caged. She paused for a moment. Engage subspace drives on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark. The fleet disappeared from the solar system in an instant. For a brief moment they existed in subspace, that strange realm between dimensions that Han Su had discovered 20 years earlier. Then they reappeared around a distant star, 70 light-years from Earth. Transition complete, Dae-jung reported. All ships present and accounted for. Ji-un looked at the view screen, where a beautiful blue-green planet hung like a jewel against the blackness of space. There it is, she said softly. Terra Nova, our new home. The fleet moved into orbit around the planet. Sensors scanned the surface, confirming what the long-range scans had suggested. The planet was perfect for human life. Rich soil, clean water, breathable air, and no sign of any intelligent life or Council presence. Begin landing procedures, Ji-un ordered. Over the next 3 days, the ships descended to the planet's surface one by one. The colonists woke from their sleep chambers and stepped out onto the soil of a new world. Engineers began to set up the prefabricated buildings that would form the core of the first settlement. Ji-un walked among them, watching as humanity took root on yet another world. This was what the Council had feared, she thought. This unstoppable human drive to expand, to grow, to push beyond limits. On the 3rd day, as the sun was setting over the new colony, one of the sensor operators from the Defiance came running to find Ji-un. Captain, the young woman said. Breathless with excitement or fear, Ji-un couldn't tell which. We've detected something, a signal. Not from our ships, Ji-un felt a chill run down her spine. Council ships? No, Captain. The signal is coming from the surface, about 100 kilometers north of our position. Ji-un frowned. I thought the planet was uninhabited. So did we, the sensor operator said. But this signal, it's artificial. Someone or something made it. Within an hour, Ji-un had assembled a team. They boarded a small shuttle and flew north, following the signal to its source. As they drew closer, they saw a clearing in the dense forest below. In that clearing stood structures, buildings that were clearly not natural. Take us down, Ji-un ordered. The shuttle landed at the edge of the clearing. Ji-un and her team stepped out, weapons ready just in case. But no attack came. The place seemed deserted. The buildings were simple domes made of some kind of metal. They looked old, weathered by many years of exposure. The team approached cautiously. The signal is coming from that central structure, said the sensor operator, checking her handheld device. As they neared the central dome, a section of it suddenly slid open. Ji-un raised her weapon and her team did the same. But instead of an attack, a single figure stepped out. It wasn't human. It stood taller than any human, with skin that seemed to glow with a faint green light. It had 2 arms and 2 legs, but its face was more plant-like than human, with what looked like leaves instead of hair. Lower your weapons, Ji-un ordered her team. Then she stepped forward. I am Captain Ji-un Kang of Earth. We mean you no harm. The alien studied her for a long moment. Then to Ji-un's surprise it spoke in perfect unaccented English. Earth, it said. We have not heard that name spoken in many cycles. I am Ilara, last speaker for the Navari people. How do you know our language? Ji-un asked, amazed. We have studied your transmissions for many years, Ilara said. Ever since your people first began to broadcast into space. We had hoped you might come someday. Why? Ji-un asked. Because we, like you, are exiles, Ilara said. The council banished us from their community 300 of your years ago. We found refuge here, but our numbers have dwindled. Now only a few hundred of us remain. Ji-un was stunned. The council told us this planet was uninhabited, a sacred place that no one could settle. Ilara made a sound that might have been laughter. The council tells many lies. They did not want you to find us. To learn our story. And what is your story? Ji-un asked. Come, Ilara said, gesturing toward the open dome. I will show you. Inside, the dome was filled with technology unlike anything Ji-un had seen before. But it wasn't the technology that Ilara wanted to show them. It was a record, a history of the Navari people. Ilara explained how the Navari had once been members of the Galactic Council. They had been respected for their skills in biological sciences, but they had developed a form of genetic modification that the Council had deemed dangerous and forbidden. They feared what we might become, Ilara said, so they cast us out, just as they did to your people. We were not the first, Ji-un said softly, realization dawning. No, Ilara confirmed. The Council has existed for tens of thousands of years. In that time, they have banished many races who showed too much potential, who threatened to grow beyond the Council's control. Over the next few days, Ji-un and her team learned more about the Navari. They were a photosynthetic race, drawing energy from sunlight like plants. Their forbidden technology had been a way to adapt their bodies to different environments, allowing them to settle worlds that would otherwise be hostile to them. But we have grown weak here, Ilara admitted. Our population is too small. In a few more generations, we will be gone. Ji-un thought about this for a long time. Then she made a decision. She returned to the human colony and called a meeting of all the colony leaders. We are not alone on this world, she told them, and we have a choice to make. We can ignore the Navari, focus on our own colony and watch as another victim of the Council's fear fades away. Or we can reach out, form an alliance, share this world and learn from each other. There was debate, of course. Some feared that contact with the Navari might somehow draw the Council's attention. Others worried about sharing the planet's resources. But in the end, the decision was made. Humanity would extend a hand of friendship to the Navari. In the months that followed, humans and Navari began to work together. The Navari shared their biological knowledge, showing the humans how to grow crops that produce 10 times the yield of Earth varieties. The humans shared their technology, helping the Navari repair systems that had been failing for decades. More importantly, they shared their stories. Both species had been cast out for the same reason. They had shown too much potential. The Council had feared what they might become. One evening, as Ji-un sat with Ilara watching the twin moons of Terra Nova rise, she asked a question that had been on her mind. Are there others out there? Other races that the Council has banished? Ilara was quiet for a moment. Yes, she said finally. Many. The Trassic, cast out for their quantum physics research. The Vrel, banished for developing artificial intelligence. Many others scattered across the stars that the Council does not watch. Ji-un looked up at the stars, thinking, what if we found them? What if we brought them together? For what purpose? Ilara asked. To build something new, Ji-un said. Not a council that rules through fear and control, but an alliance. A community where each race can develop in its own way, share what it learns, grow stronger together. Ilara considered this. The council would see such an alliance as a threat. Good, Ji-un said firmly. They should. Word of the alliance between humans and Navari spread quickly. When the news reached Earth, it caused excitement and debate. But President Sung Ho-choi, who had taken office just a year earlier, saw the potential immediately. This changes everything, he said to his advisors. For 20 years, we've been focused on building our strength within our own solar system. Now we have a chance to build something greater. He appointed a new Minister of Interspecies Relations and gave her a clear mission: find other exile races and extend the hand. The great hall of the Galactic Council was silent. The room was huge with tall walls that reached up so high they seemed to touch the stars. Hundreds of aliens from different planets sat in rows that went up like stairs. They all looked down at the small group of humans who stood in the center. Ambassador Jun Kim stood tall, though inside he felt small. He was the voice of Earth here among the stars. Next to him stood his team, 4 other humans who had traveled across the galaxy to speak for all of humanity. They had come to defend Earth against serious charges. High Counselor Vexnar, a tall blue alien with 4 arms and eyes that glowed yellow, looked down from the highest seat. The Council has reached its decision, Vexnar said in a deep voice that echoed through the hall. June took a deep breath. For weeks they had argued their case. Earth had been accused of breaking the Council's most important rule: never develop quantum dimensional drive technology. This technology could open doors between dimensions, and the Council had banned it long ago, saying it was too dangerous. The evidence is clear, Vexnar continued. Earth has willfully developed technologies that threaten the safety of all life in this galaxy. Such actions cannot go unpunished. Tae-Young Bayek, the youngest member of the Earth team, stood close to June. He was a scientist, not a diplomat. He whispered, "They're making a mistake. Our research is safe. They just fear what we might become." June gave him a quick look that said, "Be quiet." This was not the time to speak out of turn. Vexnar raised all 4 of his arms. By unanimous vote, the Galactic Council hereby declares that Earth and all human colonies are to be cut off from the galactic community. All trade routes will be closed. All diplomatic ties will be broken. The transgalactic portal to the Sol system will be dismantled. The words hit June like a physical blow. Banishment. The worst possible outcome. Humanity would be alone again, cut off from the stars they had only just begun to explore. "You have 6 Earth days to gather your people and your ships," Vexnar said. "After that time, any human found in Council space will be treated as an outlaw." One by one, the representatives of 100 alien civilizations stood up and turned their backs on the humans. It was the ultimate show of disrespect in Council tradition. "This is wrong," Tae-Young said, no longer whispering. "You're making a terrible mistake." June put a hand on the young scientist's shoulder. "Not now," he said quietly. "We need to get home. Our people need to know." The journey back to their ship was long and quiet. No one spoke as they walked through the massive space station that housed the Galactic Council. Aliens who had once greeted them as friends now moved away as they passed. From the windows of their ship, they watched as workers began to take apart the huge metal ring that allowed instant travel between Earth and the rest of the galaxy. Soon the only way home would be the long way, months of travel through normal space. "What will we do now?" asked Micha Song, the team's economic advisor. Her face showed the worry they all felt. "We go home," June said simply. "And we tell our people the truth. The Council fears us because we've grown too quickly, learned too much. They see us as a threat." "But the quantum drive was just the beginning," Tae-Young said. "I've seen the research. There's so much more we could do if we weren't held back by their rules." June looked at the young scientist with new interest. Maybe that's what they're really afraid of. The trip back to Earth took 63 days. It was the last time a human ship would use the Council's faster-than-light travel networks. By the time they reached Earth, the news had already spread. The planet was in chaos. President Hyun Park had called an emergency meeting of all world leaders. The Great Hall in New Geneva was packed when June and his team arrived to give their report. Ambassador Kim, President Park said, "The people of Earth need to hear directly from you what happened." June stood before the leaders of Earth. He told them everything. How the Council had found Earth guilty. How they had been banished, how every alien race had turned their backs. "They've cut us off," he finished. "We are alone in the galaxy again." The room erupted in angry shouts and fearful questions. President Park raised her hands for quiet. "What exactly were you working on, Dr. Beck?" she asked, looking at Tae-Young. "What is this technology that frightened the Council so much?" Tae-Young stepped forward. The quantum dimensional drive was designed to create shortcuts through space. It would have let us travel anywhere in the galaxy in seconds, without using the Council's portal network. But there's more to it than that. Our research suggests we could even open doors to other dimensions, maybe even other universes. "And they banned this research?" asked the leader of the African Union. They banned it 10,000 years ago, Tae-young explained, long before humans even left Earth. They said it was too dangerous, that it could tear the fabric of reality. But our calculations show it's safe if done correctly. President Park was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked around the room at the assembled leaders. They've given us no choice, she said finally. If they won't let us sit at their table, we'll build our own. The words spread across Earth like fire. They became a rallying cry, a promise. In the weeks that followed, humanity faced its new reality. Ships that had been far from Earth when the banishment came struggled to get home before they were caught in council space. Some didn't make it. Others arrived with stories of narrow escapes and former alien friends who had suddenly become enemies. Earth's economy, which had grown to depend on trade with other worlds, suffered a severe shock. Alien technologies that people had come to rely on would soon stop working without replacement parts. Foods and medicines from other worlds would run out. But as the first shock passed, something unexpected began to happen. Humans started to adapt. Scientists who had worked within the Council's strict rules now began to explore beyond those boundaries. Engineers started to design new systems to replace alien tech. Farmers began to grow Earth alternatives to alien foods. 3 months after the banishment, June Kim was called to a secret meeting at a research facility built deep under the mountains of what had once been called Korea. Dr. Jin-Woo Park, once a respected scientist in the Galactic Research Initiative and now the head of Earth's new autonomous development program, showed June into a large underground lab. "We wanted you to be the first to see this," Dr. Park said. "After all, you were there when they cast us out." In the center of the lab was a small metal device not much bigger than a car engine. It hummed with energy, and the air around it seemed to bend and shift like heat waves rising from hot pavement. "What is it?" June asked, though part of him already knew. "A working quantum dimensional drive," Tae-young Baek said, stepping out from behind the device. "The first of many. And just the beginning of what we can do now that we're free of the Council's rules." June looked at the device with mixed feelings. It was this technology that had caused Earth to be banished. But now, looking at it, he felt something new, a sense of possibility, of hope. "They thought cutting us off would weaken us," Dr. Park said quietly. "They were wrong. They've just set us free." As June looked at the machine, he thought about Vexnar and the Council, about how they had turned their backs on humanity. He thought about how they had feared what humans might become. "Maybe they were right to be afraid," he said softly. The quantum drive hummed louder, and for just a moment June thought he could see through it, a glimpse of something beyond, a future where humanity reached not just for the stars but for something greater, a future where humans would build not just a seat at the table but a throne of their own. The journey had just begun. 75 years had passed since humanity's banishment from galactic society. 3 generations had been born who knew the Galactic Council only as a distant enemy, never as rulers. The war that Admiral Da Hyun had predicted had come, raged across 100 star systems, and finally ended. Now, representatives from over 200 intelligent species gathered in the massive space station called Harmony. The station hung in space at the former boundary between Council and Alliance territory, though such boundaries had little meaning now. The old divisions were fading, replaced by a new galactic order. Junho Shin, Chancellor of the Earth Confederation and great-grandson of one of the original exiled diplomats, straightened his formal robes as he prepared to address the gathered delegates. At 68, his hair had turned silver, but his eyes still held the same determination that had helped guide the Alliance through the 5-year war with the Council. "It's time," said his aide. A young Navari named Thala Junho nodded and followed her into the great assembly hall. Unlike the old council chamber, which had been modeled after a throne room with the High Counselor elevated above all others, Harmony's hall was circular. Every seat was at the same level, arranged around a central open space. No race sat higher than any other. As Junho entered, the hall fell silent. All eyes turned to him, eyes of every shape, size, and color belonging to beings from across the galaxy. Some were from the original exile races. Others were former council members who had defected during the war. And still others were from worlds that had remained neutral until the conflict's end. Junho walked to the center of the hall. He carried no notes. What he would say today had been in his heart for years. "Friends, allies, fellow travelers among the stars," he began, His voice was calm but carried to every corner of the vast chamber. 75 years ago, my great-grandfather stood before the Galactic Council as they pronounced humanity's banishment. They called us dangerous. They called our technology heretical. They turned their backs on us and expected us to fade away into the dark. He paused, looking around the chamber. They were right about one thing. We were dangerous. Dangerous to a system that ruled through fear and ignorance. Dangerous to those who hoarded knowledge as if it were only for the few, not the many. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the hall. The council believed that by casting us out, they were protecting their power. Instead, they set in motion events that would ultimately lead to today. Because in our exile, humanity found something unexpected. We found you. He gestured to the gathered representatives. The Navari, who taught us to live in harmony with new worlds. The Trassic, whose understanding of quantum physics transformed our technology. The Vrel, whose artificial intelligence systems now connect us all. And dozens of other races, each with your own story of banishment. Your own forbidden knowledge that the council feared. Junho smiled. We did not set out to overthrow the council. We simply sought to survive, to build something new beyond their reach. We created an alliance based not on fear but on cooperation, not on restriction but on sharing. And when the council finally attacked us, we stood together and proved that their way was not the only way, not even the best way, to rule a galaxy. The 5-year war had been brutal. The council, with its vast resources and thousands of years of established power, had expected a quick victory. But the alliance, with its shared technologies and innovative tactics, had surprised them at every turn. The turning point had come when a third of the council's member races, seeing the success of the alliance model, had defected. The council's response had been swift and merciless. They had attacked their own former members. That atrocity had turned even more worlds against them. In the end, the council leadership had retreated to their homeworld, abandoned by all but their most loyal followers. The galaxy had been left in chaos with no clear authority to maintain order. Today, Junho continued, we take the next step in our journey together. The Galactic Concordat before you establishes a new framework for relations between all our worlds. Not a council that rules from above, but a concordat of equals, where knowledge flows freely and each world charts its own course while contributing to the good of all. He gestured to the document displayed on screens throughout the chamber. The result of months of negotiation and compromise, the Concordat established open borders, shared defense, and most importantly, the free exchange of scientific knowledge between all signatory worlds. Some have suggested that this is humanity's revenge on the Council. Junho said, his voice growing softer, that we have built our own throne to replace the one that rejected us. But that is not what we have done. We did not build a throne. We built a table where all may sit as equals. He spread his hands wide. The old council's remnants have been offered seats at this table, not as rulers, but as partners. Some have accepted. Others may join later when the wounds of war have healed. All are welcome so long as they come in peace and openness. As Junho finished speaking, the hall erupted in applause. Representatives from hundreds of worlds rose to their feet, their voices joining in approval. The path ahead would not be easy. Building a new galactic order never could be. But today marked the beginning of something new and hopeful. As the formal signing of the Concordat began, Junho stepped back from the center of the hall. He found himself standing next to an elderly human man, Jun Kim, the original ambassador who had witnessed humanity's banishment 75 years earlier. Ambassador Kim, Junho said with a respectful bow. Though he had been born decades after the banishment, he had grown up hearing stories of Jun Kim and the other original exiles. Chancellor Shin, Jun replied with a smile, though he was now well over 100 years old. Medical advances developed jointly by human, Navari and Vrel scientists had kept his mind sharp. A fine speech. Your great-grandfather would have been proud. Thank you, Junho said. It's an honor to have you here today. There aren't many left who remember the beginning of our journey. Yes, I'm quite the relic, Jun said with a chuckle, but I wouldn't have missed this day. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching as representatives took turns signing the Concordat. Was this the revenge you dreamed of? Junho asked suddenly. When they turned their backs on humanity, did you imagine this day? Jun thought for a moment, his eyes distant with memory. No, he said finally. I was angry then and scared. I wanted to prove the council wrong, to show them that humanity deserved a place among the stars. But this, he gestured to the diverse gathering before them, this is far greater than anything I could have imagined. He turned to Jun-Ho, his eyes bright. They banished us because they feared our potential, he said. We built all of this not out of spite, but because they were right to be afraid. Humanity's greatest strength has always been our refusal to accept limitations. They gave us the stars as our prison. We made them our home. After the signing ceremony, delegates moved to the great reception hall for a celebration. The hall was a marvel of combined architecture, with elements from dozens of different worlds blending into a harmonious whole. In the entry to the hall stood a historical artifact, the former High Counselor's seat from the old council chamber. It had been preserved not as a throne to be claimed, but as a reminder of the dangers of fearing change and progress. Beside it, a simple plaque bore Earth's response to its exile, the words that had become the motto of the new galactic order. When denied a voice, speak louder. When denied a seat, build your own table. Jun-Ho found himself drawn to the artifact. He stood looking at it, thinking of all that had happened since humanity's banishment. Quite a journey, hasn't it been? Said a voice beside him. Jun-Ho turned to see Dahaya Yoon. The admiral had retired from active service after the war, but still served as an advisor to the Earth Confederation. Her hair was now completely white, her face lined with age and experience, but her eyes were as sharp as ever. Admiral, Jun-Ho said with a respectful nod. Yes, quite a journey indeed. I remember when we first encountered the Navari, Dahai said, her mind clearly in the past. Captain Jiun-Kang was so shocked to find them on Terra Nova. None of us had imagined there were other exiles out there. Without that meeting, none of this would have happened. Jun-Ho agreed. The council's greatest mistake, Dahai said with a small smile. They kept casting out anyone who showed too much potential, never considering that those exiles might find each other. Across the hall, Jun-Ho could see representatives from dozens of worlds mingling freely. Former enemies now talked as allies. Scientists from different species discussed joint projects. The barriers that the council had spent millennia building were falling away. We have much work ahead, Jun-Ho said, thinking of the challenges that still faced the new Concordat. Rebuilding worlds damaged in the war, integrating different economic systems, ensuring that the free flow of knowledge didn't lead to dangerous technologies falling into the wrong hands. Yes, but we'll face it together, Dahai replied. That's what they never understood. The council saw different species as threats to be controlled. We see them as partners. As the celebration continued around them, Jun-Ho's thoughts turned to Earth. 50 years had passed since humanity's banishment from the Galactic Council. The children and grandchildren of those who had witnessed that dark day now lived in a very different reality. Earth had not only survived its exile, it had thrived. In the Great Council chamber on the planet Terra Nova, representatives of 37 different species gathered for the annual meeting of the Exiles Alliance. The chamber was circular, with no raised platforms or special seats. All representatives sat as equals, a deliberate contrast to the tiered arrangement of the Galactic Council, where higher seats meant higher status. Dahaya Yoon, Admiral of Earth Star Command, sat between a Navari elder and a Trassic physicist. At 73 years old, she was one of the few humans present who had been alive when the banishment occurred. She had been just a young cadet then. Now she commanded humanity's vast fleet of ships. The current speaker was addressing the gathered representatives in the common language that the Alliance had developed, a mix of several tongues that all members could easily learn through the language implants developed by the Vrel. Our trading network now spans 800 star systems, the speaker said. Goods and knowledge flow freely among all member worlds. Our combined scientific advances continue to accelerate. Dahai listened with pride. What had begun as a desperate alliance of outcasts had grown into something remarkable. Each member race brought its own strengths, its own forbidden knowledge that the Council had feared. Together, they had created technologies that none could have achieved alone. Her communication device vibrated softly. She glanced down to see an urgent message from her intelligence chief. With a small gesture of apology to those seated nearby, she slipped out of the chamber. In a small, secure room nearby, her intelligence chief was waiting. Young Bin Cho had served under Dahai for 15 years and had never called her from a meeting without good reason. "What is it?" Dahai asked. "We've intercepted Council communications, Admiral," Young Bin said, his face serious. "Unusual activity in their central systems. Our analysts believe something significant is happening." Dahai frowned. The Alliance had long maintained a network of stealth probes in Council space, gathering information about their old enemies. "Show me." Young Bin activated a holographic display. It showed data streams, ship movements, and intercepted communications from various Council worlds. 3 days ago, a Trassic merchant ship, one of ours, was detected in Council space, Young Bin explained. It escaped before they could capture it, but it seems to have triggered something. Dahai studied the data. Council ships were moving in unusual patterns. Communications between Council worlds had increased by 300%. Something had spooked them. "The Trassic ship was using our new phase shift drive," Young Bin continued. "The Council has never seen that technology before. From what we've intercepted, they're in a panic about it. The phase shift drive was the latest advancement in faster-than-light travel, developed jointly by human, Trassic, and Vrel scientists. It allowed ships to move through normal space at speeds that were previously thought impossible, without even entering subspace. They're afraid," Dahai said softly. "After all these years, they still fear what we might become." She returned to the Alliance chamber just as the meeting was concluding. She needed to speak with the Alliance leadership immediately. Later that day, in a smaller room, Dahai presented the intelligence to the Alliance Council, the 12 representatives who guided the Alliance's overall policy. "The Council has been content to ignore us for decades," she explained. "They banished us to remote regions of the galaxy and then pretended we no longer existed. But now they've seen our technology in action, and they're afraid." Elar, the Navari representative and a descendant of the Alara who had first met humans on Terra Nova, spoke up. "What do you believe they will do?" "That's what concerns me," Dahai replied. "The Galactic Council has always responded to fear with aggression. They may be preparing for war." The room was silent as the representatives considered this. For 50 years, the Alliance had grown and developed in the shadows away from Council attention. They had built their society on the principle of free exchange of knowledge, the exact opposite of the Council's system of control and restriction. "We are not seeking conflict," said the human representative. Junho Shin. He was the great-grandson of one of the original diplomats who had witnessed humanity's banishment. "But neither will we abandon our principles. If the Council moves against any member of this alliance, they move against all of us." There were sounds of agreement around the table. "We should increase patrols along our borders," Dahai suggested, "and perhaps accelerate the production of our defensive systems. Not to provoke a conflict, but to ensure we can protect ourselves if one comes." The Council agreed unanimously. As the meeting ended, Junho approached Dahai. "Admiral," he said quietly, "do you truly believe war is coming?" Dahai considered the question carefully. "The Council has ruled the galaxy for tens of thousands of years through fear and control. We represent everything they fear. Races working together, sharing knowledge freely, developing technologies they have forbidden. Yes, I believe conflict is inevitable. The only question is when." Over the next few weeks, Alliance ships throughout the galaxy were put on alert. New defensive stations were hastily constructed near border systems. The great shipyards around Mars and Terra Nova increased production of warships equipped with the latest Alliance technology. On the planet Trassica, home of the Trassic people, scientists worked day and night to improve the phase shift drive technology that had so alarmed the Council. If war was coming, every advantage would be needed. 2 months after the Alliance Council meeting, Dahai received the news she had been dreading. A Council battle fleet had crossed into Alliance space and destroyed an outpost in the Rigel system. 300 Alliance citizens, a mix of humans, Navari, and Vrel, had been killed. The response from the Alliance was swift. Ships were dispatched to the Rigel system to secure it against further attacks. Dahai herself took command of the defense fleet, consisting of 50 warships from various Alliance worlds. When they arrived at Rigel, they found the outpost in ruins and the Council fleet still in the system. 17 massive Council warships hung in space, their designs unchanged for thousands of years. They had never needed to innovate because no one had ever challenged them. "Open a channel," Dahai ordered from the bridge of her flagship, the HSS Unity. The face that appeared on the view screen was familiar to her only from historical records. A member of the same blue-skinned, four-armed species as High Counselor Vexnar, who had banished humanity 50 years earlier. "This is Fleet Commander Zarnok of the Galactic Council," the alien said, its yellow eyes glowing with anger. "You have violated Council space. Your illegal colony has been removed. Leave this system immediately or be destroyed." Dahai kept her face calm. "This is Admiral Dahai Yun of the Exiles Alliance. Rigel is not Council space. It lies beyond your borders. You have attacked an Alliance outpost without provocation, killing hundreds of innocent people. It is you who must leave." The alien's eyes narrowed. "There is no Alliance. There are only scattered exile races who have forgotten their place. The Council has ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years. We will continue to do so for 50,000 more." "The galaxy has changed, Commander," Dahai replied evenly. "The Council no longer rules all. You banished us, remember? We are not subject to your laws. You are insects," Zarnok snarled. "Your pathetic alliance of outcasts is nothing compared to the power of the Council. We have seen your new technologies. They are abominations forbidden for good reason. They will be destroyed along with any who use them." Dahai sighed. She had hoped, however faintly, for a diplomatic solution. "I take it you're refusing to leave this system peacefully? Prepare to be destroyed," Zarnok said, and the transmission cut off. Dahai turned to her crew. "Battle stations. Activate phase shift drives and prepare for combat maneuvers." The Council fleet moved forward, firing their weapons. Beams of energy lanced out toward the Alliance ships, but the Alliance vessels suddenly blurred, seeming to shift partly out of normal space. The energy beams passed harmlessly through the space where they had been. "Phase shift successful," reported Dahai's first officer. "All ships report ready for counterattack." Dahai nodded. "Execute attack pattern Delta. Target their weapons and engines only. I want to disable, not destroy." The Alliance fleet moved with a speed and precision that the Council ships couldn't match. The phase shift technology allowed them to partially exist in normal space and partially in subspace, making them almost impossible to hit with conventional weapons. In contrast, the Council ships were slow and predictable. They relied on their size and firepower, not maneuverability. They had never needed to innovate because they had never faced a real challenge. Within 20 minutes, the battle was over. 14 Council ships were disabled, drifting in space with their weapons and engines destroyed. 3 had managed to escape back to Council space. Not a single Alliance ship had been lost. "Open a channel to the Council flagship," Dahai ordered. Zarnok appeared on screen again, his face twisted with rage and disbelief.